Our studio guest is Grant Lobes. He's the Twin Falls County prosecuting attorney. He's here till 10 o'clock this morning. 62 right now. Bill Cowley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. There's another story out today, and it's unrelated, although we've been talking about some crimes that took place in Virginia. But overall, there's been a spike in violent crime across the country. That would be an average, obviously, some places worse than others. And it bucks the trend of the last 20 years, 20, 25 years, where mostly we saw reductions in crime. Question for the prosecutor. Any theories as to why we're seeing that happen?
Well, there are a lot of different theories about why we're seeing that happen that go all the way from just a general erosion of discipline in society to, tying it to recent attempts by legislators and both at the state and federal level and presidents to, um, turn back some of the hard on crime policies of previous years. And I think that there's some truth to all of them. There certainly is a change. You know, uh, Facebook and the social media, I think, have spurred a change, as well as some politicians who have seized on that in the way people react and the respect people show. Um, there certainly have been cases where criminals who otherwise wouldn't be released are being released because of jail overcrowding or concerns about the cost of incarceration or movements against incarceration as punishment, which are curiously both the far right and the far left are behind those kind of things. I mean, you can get in Idaho, the ACLU and the Freedom Foundation come together and decide that it's a good idea to release criminals from prison early. Well, that sort of thing is almost always going to result in an increase in crime because now the people that were in prison and not committing crimes are out on the street, and some of them are going to be committing crimes. But that, all these are oversimplifications because it's a piece of everything. Um, and there's the drug problem is not helping because in Idaho anyway, while we have, I'll talk about Twin Falls specifically. Twin Falls has an enormous increase in the criminal cases that we're filing this year. The felony cases are up about 25% so far
Wow.
this year, and while about 50% of that, as in the past, has been drug cases. 50% of it is non-drug cases. So both types of crime are rising. And the enormous increase in drugs and drug availability and the types of drugs and the new dangerous drugs, so not the new drugs, but a resurgence in the old drugs. We're seeing a lot more heroin. We're seeing a lot more of prescription drug abuse of really bad stuff. We're seeing a lot of fentanyl, which is extremely dangerous stuff. And so, what you get when you have an increase in drug crime is an increase in every other kind of crime. And that's what's going on in Idaho generally and in Twin Falls specifically. So, why that's happening, I have no idea. I mean, you know, people who study society and on a broader scale can look at that and come up with some societal problem, perhaps. But it is a challenge for law enforcement, for prosecutors, for courts, and for jails and prisons. So um, it is across the board increasing fairly dramatically in the last 3 years, I'd say.
We have a caller with us. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air at 9:37.
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for taking my call.
Good morning.
You know, what you're saying with the way society has changed, I look back when Obama was president, all the drug dealers, well, it isn't a major crime. We're going to turn them loose, and put them back on the street. I look at how respect for life itself, whether it be the abortion issue or what, these kids coming up now, if the senators and, well, the government in general, if they can't make up their mind whether it's okay to kill somebody or not, and they'll argue about it, why are these kids, how are they supposed to come up and not respect the law itself and the police department and what have you? We've backed ourselves into a corner where we've made the kids think, well, it doesn't matter what I do. They're going to legalize marijuana. It's been illegal all these, for centuries or whatever, but now all of a sudden it's legal. So they're just dumbing down the laws. And I pity you, the prosecutor and the police department. I don't know how you guys can keep your heads on straight with what you have to deal with this stupidity of the human race right now.
Got to cut him off there because we got a short break coming up. But gosh, that's
a good place to end.
Right? we got about 20 minutes before we wrap up the program. A short break on the way. Our guest is Twin Falls County Prosecuting Attorney Grant Loebs. We're at 64 right now. Whenever I see that number 64, I could just say the temperature is Jerry Kramer. I do know one person working in county government who will understand that reference over at the coroner's office. We've got more coming up.